Love, it's simple. What more can I say? Do you know how many people you've said I love you to in your life? Could you think of it? For some people, they probably could, one or two, right? For some people, it might roll off the tongue. There was a video that was sent to me this week, and it was a video of a child with Down syndrome who was having difficulty with touch, with physical touch, physical intimacy. And in that video, they presented this young boy, a toddler age, with a golden retriever. And that golden retriever was just this big ball of love and kept slowly and gently rolling in and reaching out. And each time the little boy scooched aside and picked up the paw and scooched aside, and the dog just rolled over and gently nestled his head with another invitation, and the boy moved over his nose and moved out of the way. But it was this beautiful, gentle, unfolding invitation of love, just at the right pace for this child, where maybe the love of the mother or father or a sibling or a teacher couldn't get through. Maybe that touch was too much, but the love was just gentle enough that it could be an introduction into breaking down barriers and spaces and walls. How special is your love? How special is your love? And is there any space or place where it doesn't apply, where you don't bring it fully, where maybe you have a wall or a barrier, known or unknown, that makes you untouchable or unreachable, or maybe creates space between yourself and your feeling and your experience of God? Maybe yourself and self. Maybe your experience of self and other. The scripture tells us that the greatest of all things is love. That there is value in faith, there is value in hope, but love above all things. Abide in love, because this is the greatest. It is the greatest faculty. It is the greatest virtue. It is the greatest attribute of God. There are three main loves that we experience as human beings. We experience the love of God, but that can be ethereal to people. That can be something that they can't seem to capture or touch. It's an idea. We have the love of another, but that can cause attachments, right? That can cause delusions. It can cause seeming suffering. And we have the love of self, but that one can be hard. That one takes a practice. That one's a development. I believe that love, to be fully experienced in the way that Scripture talks about it, the greatest of all these is love, is to experience love as the Trinity. Love as love of self, love of God, and love of others. And once love emerges from the height of all of those experiences, we tap into the power in the realm of divine love. Because everything less than that, anything less than that, is a simple separation. It's simply looking out at the world around us, or to the world within us, or to the idea and the concept of the highest we can conceive of, and saying this or that is or is not love. Because if God is everywhere present, then love is everywhere present. Do you believe that you are God as love? Do you believe that you are God's love in action? That's what we teach in Unity. We teach that you are the embodiment of God's love in action. So is everyone else. Alan Watts said, "You yourself are the eternal energy that appears as this universe." You yourself are the eternal energy which appears as this universe. There is a professor who follows the late Sai Baba, and he was writing an article to his listeners about How can God be everywhere? When people ask the question, well, how can God be everywhere? This love that is God, how can it be everywhere? How can it be in you? How can it be in me? How can it be in everything? And he says this, people often protest. How can you say God is everywhere? If that is so, then I should be able to see him. But I do not. And hence I don't buy this idea of an omnipresent God. This is an old argument, and a clever man who believed in God responded to his friend, a non-believer, let's call him Mr. Smith, as follows. Look here, Mr. Smith, I cannot see your brain. Am I to presume that you do not have one? Sometimes we wait for something to be identified. We wait to say, we see that, I know that, that is love, that is God, God is real, I am love. Why wait? When we see it, when we feel it, we tend to say, I love you, not necessarily with words, but I love you as being the greatest embodiment that we can think of to name this feeling and expression when we experience that unity of the Trinity. When we experience ourselves in one another, when we experience God in one another, when we experience God as light emanating and radiating throughout our universe, it creates this burst, this field of consciousness, this field of energy that we have named this simple little word called love. And we tend to say, I love you. But is it reserved? Is it reserved in our lives for special people? Is it reserved in our lives for something romantic? Is it reserved in our lives for blood relatives? If it is reserved, it is not yet unleashed in you. It has not yet unleashed in you all the divine potential that you were born with. There is a world waiting to be experienced for those who will take love off the throne of specialness. Are we willing to take love off the throne of specialness and put it into action in all aspects of our life, to recognize it, to demonstrate it, to see it, to call it forth, and to be it in every activity? I'm not talking about using just the word love. And I don't mean trite love. I love you, I love you, I love you. I mean a field of experience, a field of an experience that shows and knows God as omnipresent. Have you ever noticed that once you expand in your spiritual practice, all of the traditional love songs that you might evolve out of because they might start seeming codependent, but all of those, you know what I'm saying? Right? But once you get on this spiritual journey, then something happens to those love songs and they no longer become codependent, or, first you love them, then you realize, oh, that's not so healthy. And then you start loving them again because they become more expansive. They become experiences of the pure love of God. And you know that they're not limited to a person in time and space, but they're talking about an expanded, full spiritual awakening experience where one sees God in another. And then they expand to another level of beauty, and you start playing those 70s hits again. Secret love songs, secret love tapes. Charles Fillmore said, love is the pure essence of being that binds together the whole of the human family. Attribute of God. Love is the attribute of God that binds together the whole human family. Unity author May Rowland says that love is the supreme gift to man, and you cannot mistake its Christ-like quality when it comes into your consciousness. You cannot mistake its Christ-like quality when it comes into your consciousness. It's an experience beyond human, beyond matter, beyond form. In the Gospel of Thomas, saying number 15 says that Jesus said, when you see one who is not born of a woman, fall on your faces and worship. That one is your Father. when you see one that is not born of a woman, fall on your faces and worship. That one is your Father. Have we seen, experienced that was not born of the world but is beyond the world, that is so much greater that in the presence of it we know that we know that we know we are in the presence of God, that we know that we know that we know that we are witnessing something so true to our nature, so core in our being, that we sense ourselves being home. Take a moment and think, what is the love of your life? What is the love of your life? What brings the highest experience of love? That experience that when you have it, you know that you know that you know God exists. God is awake. God is in activity, is in other, is in you, is in life, is in creativity. I invite you to just take a deep breath in and close your eyes if you choose. What is the love of your life? What is it that reminds you that you know, that you know, that you know? When you get that, allow it to expand in your mind and in your heart. Allow your mind to explore it. It's beyond a person. It may be something experienced with a person. It's beyond an activity. It may be something experienced within an activity. But when you experience it, you know God. What makes you breathe? Breathe a burst of I love you. I love this. I love love. What bursts open your heart? And I invite you to come back to this space. And I invite you to take a moment and just share that with someone right around you. If you're comfortable, just share whatever it is that came to you with someone next to you. Love is growing right now. As that is known in our hearts and that's shared among us, love is growing. It's not yours to hold that back. What you just got and what you know was birthed in you, is known in you, and is yours to share with the world. It is yours to share with the world because you are the light of the world. And it is not ours to hold back the places and the spaces where we experience and see God. It is ours because it came to us, because it resonated through us and with us. It is ours to identify it, to learn it, to spread it, and to share it. Do you believe that you have been given that charge? You have. Each of us has been uniquely designed with sacred antenna, specially tuned in to experience an aspect, an experience of the divine that is known in us to bring heaven to earth, to bring God into action, to bring light into the heart of all humanity. For me, one of the things that makes me feel alive, that I know God, is inspiration. Is watching that divine flow. It may sound harsh, but it is not yours to hold back that flow. It belongs to the universe. It belongs to everyone around us. It belongs to spirit. We can only delve as deeply into God as we are willing to delve into the expanse of our inner universe, as deeply as our hearts are open, to enter into the immensity of self, a glimpse into the immensity of source. Khalil Gibran said, the appearance of things change according to the emotions, and thus we see magic and beauty in them, while the magic and beauty are really in ourselves. Are you willing to unleash the abundance of God experience that is in you, that is your divine birthright? If we're willing, there are a few steps. If we're willing, we must first recognize that it is in us, and we must be willing to bring it into each moment. Stop trying to be so spiritual. I like to tell myself that a lot. Stop trying to be so spiritual. There is only one you. Just be it. Just be you. Because it is spiritual, and it is an expression of the activity of God. And until we learn to honor our process, to honor the self, we are not honoring the divine. It was in the Daily Word this morning. I am free to be me. Today I step into the uniqueness of who I am, and I find freedom. I let go of comparing myself to others and stop trying to be something I'm not. I relinquish any thoughts of waiting for my life to begin. Every creature and creation on earth is beautiful exactly as it is, and so am I. We walk ourselves sometimes into a closed heart, into closed experiences, into experiences other than I love you. When we try to start fitting into someone else's consciousness, when we try to start fitting into someone else's clothes, or the way someone else does things or says we should. There was a show on Soul Sunday, you know, Oprah's Soul series. It might not actually have been on the Soul series, but I found it through there. But it was an interview of her with Iyanla Vanzant. And they talked about their work together and then this experience where they were pulled apart for a time, about 11 years, and then the coming back together. And the big heartbeat of that story is know thyself. That rift happened out of not honoring the self, not honoring the worthiness of being birthed and born perfect and whole and complete exactly as one is, and letting that speak for itself rather than trying to be all things to all people, rather than trying to follow through with someone else's idea of who we're supposed to be. Can we honor ourselves in our process? Can we honor that each one of us is divinely designed, perfectly created to meet the now moments in our lives and to express spiritual love? And that when we do, we will awaken God in the minds of the world, in the minds of all of those around us, in the mind of creation, because it is right here all the time. So rather than trying to duplicate what we see in the world around us, rather than trying to contort and shift ourselves into what doesn't fit, find the depths of our beings, find the depth of self, and move forward from there. The next is to pay attention. Are we moving slowly enough that we're paying attention to the bursts of love, to the moments of love? Are we really quiet enough in our minds and in our lives that we're taking the time to pause, taking the time to breathe it in, taking the time to stop and acknowledge it? Because when we're not, we see it as missing. When we're not, it seems that God is coming to other people, but not to us. That love is coming to other people, but not to us. But when we slow down enough, we have those golden retriever moments. Those moments where we can just pause, wherever it is. It may be something that seems so silly or so little, you maybe wouldn't even tell anyone about it, but you just sat there and you soaked it in and you paused and you just said, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you. In your heart and in your mind. And you beamed it forth in the presence of witnessing God in action. Are we willing to slow down our world enough inside so that we can presence Spirit all around? The third step is that we have to use it to grow it. We are constantly sending out vibrations. Are we sending out our love? Are we generating love? Because we have a choice in every moment. Life does not always give us circumstances and situations that open our heart. Sometimes life has the appearance and gives us situations and circumstances that can teach us that it's not safe to keep it open. But when we close it, we close ourselves to the love within and to the love of God and to the love that exists among each other. So can we bravely step forward on a spiritual journey, on a spiritual path of taking down any of those barriers to love? David Data, who is an intimacy author and teacher, he said this: if you are waiting for anything in order to live and love without holding back, then you suffer. Each moment is the most important moment of your life. No future time is better than now to let down your guard and love. Rumi said, your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all of the barriers within yourself that you have built against it. It's always right here, omnipresent, forever powerful, awaiting our witnessing. Your love is not yours to shut down. It belongs to the world. It belongs to God. It belongs to the universe. Let it have a hold on you. Let it have the space that it is wanting in your life. Joseph Campbell said, I don't believe people are looking for the meaning of life so much as they are looking for the experience of being alive. When we experience our aliveness, we experience God. Are we ready to breathe into our aliveness? It's our job. Some people might claim that it's actually the only thing we need to focus on. If there was one thing we did in this lifetime, it's be present to love and be a presence of love. It's your job. It's my job. And when we are present to love, we bring God to people. We bring heaven to earth. And we bring ourselves into a full experience of the divine. I want to close with a reading from Paul Farini in the book, I Am the Door. Wherever you go, love goes with you. Love moves with your legs, reaches with your hands, speaks with your voice, and sees with your eyes. Because of you, love is everywhere. Without you, it would be invisible. That is why your service is needed. Namaste.